It was last year, in the middle of winter, when I decided to take a solo trip from Wisconsin to Montana. It wasn't a vacation or a scenic road trip. I just urgently needed to be in Montana, and instead of flying, I chose to drive to save money and make use of some time alone on the road. I started the drive at 7 p.m. Everything was carefully prepared. My luggage packed neatly in the trunk, snacks and water on the passenger seat, phone fully charged, and the map thoroughly marked. At that moment, I thought, just get through the night and I'll be there by morning. The first hour passed smoothly. I drove through small towns, glowing streetlights, and the occasional passing car. But soon, the city gave way to forests and wide open fields. The road became increasingly deserted. Just me, my car, and soft music playing in the cabin. By the second hour, I decided to stop for gas. Even though the tank was still two-thirds full, I knew gas stations would become scarcer the further I went. After about 20 minutes of driving, I finally found a small roadside station, completely empty, with just 4 pumps and a convenience store that was dark and clearly closed. I pulled in and started filling up. But something felt off. The pump was incredibly slow, as if it was clogged or hadn't been used in a long time. As I leaned against the car, waiting for the gas to drip in, a strange vehicle appeared. It was moving unusually slowly, maybe 20 or 30 kilometers per hour, and passed the gas station. But then it reversed and parked right behind my car. A man stepped out, tall, wearing a gray flannel shirt and black jeans. He didn't move toward the pump, didn't walk around. He just stared at me. I tried to act normal, gave him a slight nod, then turned away. My heart started to race. After what felt like forever, I finally heard his pump start running. I sighed in relief, thinking I was just being paranoid. But just as I capped the tank and turned to get into the car, his eyes were locked on me again, heavy, empty, like he hadn't slept for days and was resisting some kind of delirium. I quickly got in the car and drove off as fast as I could. 3 hours later, well past midnight, it started to rain. The heavy drops made the road slick and darker than ever. I began to feel exhausted. My eyes burned. My hands trembled on the wheel. Around 1 a.m., I decided to stop and rest at another gas station. It looked just as rundown and lonely as the first, but at least it had lights. I filled up the tank, then parked next to the building. Outside, the rain pounded hard. My phone signal was weak, and there wasn't a single nearby town. I decided to nap for 30 minutes, just to recharge a bit. But after 25 minutes, I jolted awake with a sense of unease. When I looked through the windshield, I saw a car. That car, the same one from the first gas station. But this time, the man wasn't inside. I scanned around, trying to spot him. No one was in the lot, no one outside in the rain, not a single soul. Cold sweat ran down my back, my heart clenched. No way. I shifted the car into reverse, ready to get out of there immediately. But when I glanced into the rearview mirror, I froze. He was right there, sitting silently in the back seat like a ghost. I screamed, threw the door open, and jumped out into the pouring rain. The car was still slowly rolling backward. I hadn't even changed gears. I sprinted into the woods, only daring to look back once, and he was still sitting there, calm, cold, before suddenly driving off with my car. I stood frozen in the rain. My phone was still on the dashboard. His car, or more accurately, the stolen car he arrived in, was still there. I tried the door. Unlocked. The keys were in the ignition. Inside were a few grocery bags and a phone, unlocked, allowing emergency calls. I dialed 911. Eventually, the police confirmed that the vehicle was also reported stolen. The man was a drifter, known to lurk around remote gas stations, possibly a kidnapper or a fugitive. The car I was driving, along with all traces of him, was never found. After that night, I couldn't sleep peacefully for weeks. What seemed like a simple trip, just an overnight drive, turned into a nightmare I'll never forget. Some things happen beyond your imagination. And what scared me the most wasn't the screaming, the chase, or the storm. It was the silence. That creeping, chilling silence hiding in the dark where you least expect it. Since then, I've never driven alone at night again. I live alone in a small house in the suburbs. It's a quiet place, no noise, no traffic, an ideal spot for someone who enjoys peace and stillness like me. That evening was a chilly, foggy Friday night in the fall. I was curled up on the sofa under a thick blanket, holding a cup of hot tea, eyes glued to an old horror movie on TV. Everything was completely normal, until there was a knock at the door. At first, I thought I imagined it. Maybe it was a sound from the movie. But then, another knock. Knock, knock, knock. Slow, heavy. I looked at the clock, 11:47 p.m. Who would come to my house at this hour? I turned off the TV, stood up, and walked toward the door. My hand gently touched the lock, but I didn't open it. I tilted my head to look through the peephole. A man. He stood there motionless, head lowered, wearing a hooded sweatshirt. Under the dim yellow porch light, I couldn't see his face clearly. I only saw that he wore a long black coat and had his arms hanging loosely at his sides. I didn't open the door. I spoke loudly through the door. "Sorry, can I help you?" No response. He just stood there silently. "Are you lost?" I asked again. At that moment, he raised his head. My eyes quickly scanned his pale face, his deep-set eyes, and a smile. A twisted, unnatural smile, like he was trying to mimic human expression without really understanding what it meant. I shuddered. "I'll call the police if you don't leave." Still no response. I turned away and began stepping toward the landline phone. But before I could dial, I heard a soft click. The doorknob had turned. Thankfully, the door was locked. But that sound made me freeze for a few seconds. I rushed to grab my cell phone, the only thing I thought could help me in that moment. But when I looked at the screen, no signal, no reception. Trying to stay calm, I crept over to the side window to see if the man was still there. But no, he was gone. No one at the door, no footsteps, no sound of an engine. Nothing but thick fog and the faint glow of the streetlight. I locked all the windows, drew the curtains, and turned off the lights. I sank down behind the sofa, heart pounding. I planned to wait it out until morning, but about 20 minutes later, I heard another strange sound, this time from the back of the house. Knocking on glass. This time, it was the back door, the one that led to my backyard, a place with no lights, no cameras. I held my breath. Knock, knock, knock. 3 knocks, slow and steady. Just like before, I crept to the kitchen and grabbed a fruit knife, the only thing I had that could possibly defend me. I didn't have the courage to get close to the back door. I just stood there, hands trembling. After a few minutes of silence, I decided to call the police. I ran outside to my car to look for my phone in my bag, hoping the signal would be better there. As soon as I opened the car door, I froze. On the windshield, someone had written with a finger, "I saw you." Not with a pen, written in the condensation. I immediately drove away without looking back. When I finally reached a nearby police station, I told them everything. They escorted me back to the house to investigate. But there was no one there. No signs of forced entry, no footprints, no evidence at all. Even the message on the windshield had vanished. I told them everything, but all I got in return were doubtful looks. Some of them suggested I was exhausted, overly anxious, or just paranoid from watching too many horror movies. But I know I wasn't imagining it. I saw that person. I heard the knocking. I saw that smile. And I know he's still out there somewhere. Since that night, I moved away, changed my phone number, even updated my name in local records. I've never lived alone again. But sometimes, even in a completely unfamiliar place, I still feel like someone is watching me. And every time I hear a knock at the door in the middle of the night, even if it's just a wrong food delivery, I never open it right away. I always look through the peephole. And in those brief moments, sometimes I see those same eyes staring back.